Hey, Tim Frisch with A Frisch Perspective, your Christian nerd bringing you analysis, reviews, and fun. In my previous video, I was comparing the Holman Christian Standard Bible with the Christian Standard Bible, and I talked about some unique features of the Holman Christian Standard Bible that I thought make it really good in certain ways. In this video, I want to highlight a little bit of the strengths of the Christian Standard Bible. Now I have to say there's not a whole lot I'm going to say here. You can watch my in-depth video that I did comparing the Holman Christian Standard Bible with the Christian Standard Bible. I did that quite a while ago, and it goes into pretty good detail. So I recommend that if you want more detail. But I want to give a couple of examples of where I just think the wording is better in the Christian Standard Bible. But I also wanted to commend an article to you. This is an article written by Mark L. Strauss. He is someone I talked about in a video I did on literal versus dynamic approaches to Bible translation. And Mark Strauss was one of the authors of How to Choose a Translation for All It's Worth. And that book is more of a proponent of a more dynamic approach or thought-for-thought approach to Bible translation. Mark Strauss is also on the Committee on Bible Translation for the New International Version. So Mark is more of a dynamic translation approach kind of person, and this article that he did talking about the Christian Standard Bible update of the Holman Christian Standard Bible is really interesting because he goes into pretty good detail and he's coming at it from the approach of someone who's more on the dynamic equivalence side of translation. So I really thought it was a good article and would be good to recommend to people, so you can check that out. But let me give you just a couple examples here comparing the Holman Christian with the Christian Standard Bible. And what I notice here in these examples is that the Holman Christian Standard Bible just has wording that just seems a little unusual, maybe out of place. And the Christian Standard Bible, I would say overall, just has a bit better wording to it. The first example is in Matthew 5:17 and 18. We read here that Jesus says, "Don't assume that I came to destroy the law or the prophets." And in the Christian Standard Bible it says, "Don't think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets." So that term there, don't assume versus don't think, that's a very minor thing, but I think that this wording here is just something that you would typically see more in other Bible translations. But maybe more importantly here is in verse 18, it says, "For I assure you," but in the Christian Standard Bible it says, "For truly I tell you." So I understand the reasoning behind the word choices of the Holman Christian Standard Bible, but for example where Jesus says, "I assure you," that is more how we would say things in English, and I like that. But the more literal rendering of that would be something more like, "Truly I tell you." So not only is the Christian Standard Bible more traditional in its wording, but it's also more literal in certain ways, and I think that's a good thing. Another example is in John chapter 5 verse 10, where we read, "So the Jews said to the man who had been healed, 'This is the Sabbath. It's illegal for you to pick up your mat.'" And in the Christian Standard Bible it says, "And so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, 'This is the Sabbath. The law prohibits you from picking up your mat.'" So I'm curious which you think is better there, but I remember reading that recently, and when I read that word illegal, it just struck me. It's not that that's a really bad translation, but when I think of something being illegal, and I was actually reading it to one of my younger children, it made me think that what's the image that's conjured up there? You know, maybe police coming and arresting you. So illegal just stuck out to me in a way that almost seems anachronistic for some reason to me. Whereas talking about something being prohibited by the law, yes, it means almost the same thing, but the law to them was the scripture law and their traditions. So I just feel like that idea of something being prohibited by the law is a little bit less quirky and also maybe more accurate than what we're reading in the Holman Christian, where it talks about it being illegal to pick up your mat. So those are some just quick examples I wanted to share, and also I wanted to recommend that article to you by Mark Strauss. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below about issues like this. And as always, thank you so much for listening to what I have to say from a Frisch Perspective.